I'm Fernando Mastrangelo, and this is The Path, an interview series that uncovers the business of being an artist. People don't like to think of art as a business. And you know what? I get it. It kind of kills the romance of it. But that's not really realistic anymore. We're trying to grow. We're asking new sets of questions. We're using social media to expand our audience and even get new clients. So we're going to uncover some of the mysteries and strategies behind some of the most successful people in the field today. I want to share those with you so you can really see what it takes to build a successful studio. For this interview, I'm sitting down with Material Lust, who I absolutely love. They're the New York-based duo that has an incredible brand identity, and branding is absolutely paramount to having a successful studio. So I wanted to sit down with them and get their insight on how they built Material Lust and are now creating a second business titled Orphan Works. Let's listen in on the conversation I had with Christian and Lauren at their New York showroom and loft where ML is currently operating out of. So we're here with Lauren and Christian from Material Lust, and I wanted to focus this conversation a little bit around branding, because that's the thing that I think about most when it, obviously I know your work very well. You guys were part of IGC1 last year, but we've had a friendship since before that. But Material Lust has been able to form this identity that I think is super strong. And I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about how that started and then where it is today, and then we can kind of branch out from there. But yeah, tell me a little bit about how ML now, which we'll talk about later, how ML kind of got started.
Well, Material Lust was a name of a song that my brother wrote in high school. Or we wrote it together, but it was like a punk song. Yeah. And it was just kind of about anti-consumerism. So when we started the company, the song was, when we started the company, the first thing I knew kind of was the name.
We also didn't want our names in it.
No.
Right.
We wanted, as a brand, to be not like...
Yeah. The whole idea was to kind of have a company that sells creative work, but not be shy about it actually being a company that needs to survive.
Yeah.
And we also like the fact that it's a third entity.
When did that start? So give us a little bit of time frame here.
2013.
2013. Yeah. There was a version of it around 2011, before we had kind of decided to do it together. And it was kind of an art-based practice, and it made zero sense. It was all over the place. Yeah. And then we
so hold on. So let me get this straight. So when you guys kind of started talking about it in 2013, you had already sort of been thinking about the long-term branding of it right away.
The name was already. I knew the name Material Lust when I was in college.
Wow. Okay.
That I was going to have a company named Material Lust.
And was your identity and work already established in terms of, you guys wear black, you have a very particular look, which has become a huge part of the identity.
Well, we, just from being out in the industry, we really wanted to kind of neutralize ourselves. We are a couple, but we wanted to kind of neutralize like male, female, the fact that we're a couple, the fact that we're making things together.
The fact that we have two different aesthetics, we kind of needed to make a level playing field for ourselves.
Yeah, so that is kind of where the black came from, and then kind of our clothing is very just simple and neutral. And
it's a uniform.
Yeah.
Some of our favorite kind of design and art heroes had uniforms. Like Rodchenko, even though he wasn't the best craftsman in the world, wore a work suit to...
Yeah.
And he came from a rich family.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah. We never really wanted it to be part of the conversation, even though it has become that way.
It became a part of the brand a little bit.
But yeah, we never wanted it to be a part of it.
So, but were you guys consciously making those decisions right from the... So when you said you subconsciously and then brought it to the surface and said, you know what, we're going to start identifying that. Yeah. So then how has it evolved from there? Because now you have, very particular fonts, very particular work. Things started to grow out of that. Yeah. How?
Well, I think since working in the industry, we both worked in the industry for years, for other people before we started our own business. And so we knew the importance of having all your fonts in order, all your business cards, all your collateral in order, having everything match, have everything looking good together. And it's something we're interested in anyway.
Yeah.
So doing it for ourselves was a no-brainer and something we always knew we needed to do. It's necessary.
You
But
guys
we
tackle that
are-
together, or is it?
Yeah. We are a brand, I mean, even back down to our clothes and our look and everything. Everything about us is the brand. So like when you go at home, you go to the website or something, like how does that translate and like what's the language there? And
It's natural for us because we keep our creative lives and our personal lives are one and the same.
That's what I was just
So-
gonna ask, because if
Yeah.
it,
So to make the decisions about what we should do with our brand is kind of just comes naturally, and we let it just kind of evolve. That's another thing. We decided early on that whatever the brand is at this current moment is maybe not what it's going to evolve into a year from now, because we're not going to be the same people, creatively, personally,
Yeah.
artistically.
yeah.
So we don't shy away from changing the logo, changing it. I mean, the name hasn't changed,
but
but
where are you guys getting this?
inspiration.
Yeah, because I feel like branding has become really relevant in the last few years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where where because of social media, Instagram, and this type of thing, people are starting to understand branding and also personalized branding, where you say, okay, but you guys embody, like what you're saying is you embody the brand because it's part of your life. It's not just like this is a playtime for you. You're like, oh, I'll come to work, let me put on my uniform. This is who you are.
Yeah. I mean, just from coming over to our studio, like we sleep on a mattress on the floor here. Like we are.
But
I think the inspiration really comes from the necessity. We are kind of on our own here. So nobody's going to package us better than we're going to package ourselves.
meaning you're on your own in what sense? Like you don't have representation?
We don't have like somebody representing our best, nobody's going to have our best interests in mind except for us.
Yeah.
So when it comes to making decisions about our brand or where it should evolve and what is going to be relevant 2 years from now for us, we're the only ones that can really make that informed decision.
Yeah.
So
That's also part of the reason we haven't, really decided to have a gallery in New York, is because we want to tell the story. We want to make sure the story is always told authentically. And so we want people to come to the studio and meet with us, because we get a lot about this. Like people think they know our brand, they think they know what we're all about, and then they come and spend time with us, and then they're here for 4 hours, and then they're like, oh wait, I totally get it.
I think
now.
that mystery is important to our brand though, because you can kind of go as far down this rabbit hole that you want. So there's always kind of more to uncover with what we're doing. And if you like the surface and you like Instagram and you just like the photos of the work, fine. But if you want to get deeper into it, there's a lot of stuff that just really that goes into it. So, we try and have things that are deeper than just kind of surface. Which can be
guys
tough in this field because
Yeah.
everything's about speed and getting new stuff out, and
Yeah.
what suffers when you do stuff like that is meaning. Like, why'd you do it in the first place?
Yeah. All of our work is coming from a very personal place. Like, art is really documenting a moment in time, and it's personally documenting a moment of time. What's happening with us? What's happening with our peers? Like, what's happening in the world?
What's happening
It's
in
all-
the city?
Yeah, what's happening in this neighborhood? Like, it's all being projected into each piece that we're doing. For sure.
I think we both have this kind of design world aesthetic and this art world aesthetic. We try and combine them as much as possible, but recently what we've been doing is kind of exercising our design mind and our design practice, and then exercising our art mind and our art practice.
Yeah.
So
Because
our
our
brand,
foundation is art. Like, both of our mothers are painters. We both grew up in their studios. Then we went to this very rigid design school, Parsons, who really tells you like, is a lot about concept, but then also very much like, this is what it's like to have a job and like go out into the world and be in New York City. And so you kind of leave school and you're like immediately in that world, but your soul is in the art.
Sure.
So you're like, how do I get back? So I think that's kind of where we worked in the field. And then when the soul was, we got to start materialist, because that's our soul.
I think and I think the great thing about design though, and is why I'm glad we went down that road, is that we treat design more as a trade. You know, it's very kind of concrete the way you can go through things. There are things that are designed well, and there's things that are designed shittily. So there are kind of right and wrong answers. I mean, there's less and less so as design is evolving, but there's this kind of rigid structure that you can kind of follow.
Yeah.
With art, yes, you can do that, but we don't with our art. Yeah. So I think it's
You're
great.
meaning like you just allow that to be.
We come from a more kind of experimental place.
Right.
Where with design you can do that, but since design is not really about you, it's about the client, it's about the customer.
It's about the function.
It's about the function. Yes, it's about
how's
how to
this
get things
lasting?
produced properly.
Yeah.
There's such another level of guidelines that go into it, which is great and exciting. But
And at one point, we were talking about this a little bit earlier. You realize that you just really need to separate. You don't want to be between art and design anymore because you're like, look.
Yeah. Well, like our main thing when we first started was we are artists masquerading as designers.
That's right. I remember that was kind of your tagline.
Yeah, and nobody was really like pushing that.
I mean, design as art is a concept that's been happening for a long time, but
Yeah.
we actively put it into our brand. Hey, we're this group of artists that are designers.
Right.
We design stuff.
Yeah.
So that kind of allowed us, we were trying to do is kind of go down this middle road. Is it art? Is it design?
Yeah.
What is it? But what we found is that it's very hard to work that way because you're trying to cram a lot into one piece of work.
Yeah.
And then you're trying to explain that to somebody through the work.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to have to explain it, vote through, like actually talk to them about it. You want
Agreed.
them to see it and kind of get all of those notions.
I think one of the most, I wanted to ask you guys specifically about PR. It's something that comes up a lot in conversations for me. It's something that, a lot of young designers are always wondering how to play the PR game. You guys have done it. You guys have actually done it in a lot of different ways. Had it sort of full time and then you pulled back. But talk to me a little bit about what you, sort of as a recommendation, as the way you would think about approaching PR today, especially if you're a young designer or, the way you guys have approached it.
I think it goes to the fact that you gotta tell your story, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so PR is important from telling the correct story.
Yeah.
Where it goes wrong is when
You don't know what your story is.
you don't know what your story is and they're not telling the story correctly, and then a story comes out and is completely not you.
Yeah.
And that is not good.
My advice for PR is totally going on that, where if you're not ready, don't do it. If you don't know what your story is,
That's
you don't
the
know what
key,
your
though,
plan
right?
is.
You
you
have
can't
to know
cut,
exactly.
The PR is not going to tell you what your story is.
Yeah.
You have to know.
That's
and tell
not their
them.
job. Their job is to not create your brand and tell your story.
Yeah.
Their job is to hear your story and approach the correct people
Right.
that can then put the story out there.
Yes. The other thing about PR is, we approached it from a brand equity perspective. We're always trying to make sure that we're getting the right brand, not just the amount of brand equity, the right brand equity. And
So
the
you'll
right
be
brand
selective about, let's say a PR firm approached you about a certain magazine and you just felt like it wasn't
say no
material.
immediately.
You would say no.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to be overexposed.
Well, in the beginning, you do want to
That's what I
say
was gonna
yes,
say, yes, at the
to
beginning.
everything. I mean, but there's a lot of
But it
things
depends.
we probably should have said no to in the beginning, especially online stuff, because it's there and it's permanent.
No, but that's what I'm saying. Now, we did say yes to everything, which was a problem.
Yeah.
Because so now we have stuff
because
floating
you want
out
to get
there.
the exposure, and you can't take it down. And
Yeah, you can't take it down. Everything is
You
up
got
forever.
it. It's so difficult because it's a fine line. You want to get out there, but you also
Okay, if you get your narrative right, because basically I love that. I 100% agree with you. You need to have your story, especially as a brand, because then what are people going to talk about?
Yeah.
And then how do you, right. So establish your story, then you approach a PR firm with your story.
Yes. And
Now-
then they sell the story.
It's even better when
Is
our PR firm, the way they hooked us is they said, "I know your story. Like I know exactly who you are."
That you
And-
had that experience, you're saying?
Yeah, and
Thank
we
God they were
had
right.
we had never experienced that before. Because before we were like, no, we're not interested. We can tell our
And
own
that's
story.
because we would meet with PR firms and they would be like, oh, let's get you something with IKEA. And we're like, do you even know who we are? IKEA is not interested in us, nor are
Yeah,
we interested in IKEA.
Yeah. And so, yeah, our particular PR firm the first introductory email was like, I know exactly what you guys are trying to do.
Yeah.
And they articulated that to you, and you
Yeah.
felt like connected to what they were saying.
100%.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because we
Was
weren't-
that at the beginning, or is it- what year? 2013
No, we
or
were
14?
already kind of.
that was about 2015,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
So we were already kind of in it a little
Yeah.
bit,
Yeah.
which was good for us. If we had done it much earlier on, it would just been a ton of confusion.
Yeah.
Because you guys weren't ready.
We weren't ready.
You weren't
No.
ready.
No.
So you had been building your identity since 2013, really, and then by 15, you actually felt like maybe you were ready
Oh
to.
yeah.
Okay.
When you start a business, it's the first year is all mistakes. The second year, you're fixing all your mistakes.
Yeah.
The
By
third
year 3, you
year,
finally start to
hopefully you're
get
getting
into
into
the
a
rhythm.
groove.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By year 5, you're still
Year
making
5,
you're
you're
making new
starting
mistakes,
to like
but
let go, and you're letting yourself evolve, and you're not focusing so much on like things being permanent. and-
yeah.
Now, the big question for me around this is the cost. Okay.
It's huge.
It's a huge cost.
It's one of the
Yeah.
most expensive things you can do as a small business.
Yeah.
How valuable
If
is
you
it?
are prepared and you approach it properly, you have right guideline goals set up with your PR firm in the beginning, then it's worth it. If you don't, and you're confused about exactly what you want and what your brand is, and you don't have clear deliverables that you're handing to a PR firm, then it can be a costly mistake.
Yeah.
You want to give a PR company real deliverables, and with them, it was great because we had a great learning experience with them. We really wanted when you search Material Lust, we want all these articles on the first page about us. So it's less about the individual article, like you were saying, and more about the whole story.
Yeah.
And this is because this is something I wanted to talk about too, because I think you guys think about this a lot, is value. The value of Material Lust, right? Because this is your high-end brand. This is where your price points are pretty high.
Yeah.
So all of those things you're talking about, the PR, the way it's talked about, where they land on your Google search, all that kind of thing, are things you're thinking about.
Yes.
100% at all times.
Right.
Even
Yeah, so
our
again-
location is a part of our brand.
Yeah.
How so? Even the location of
We knew we needed to be in Soho.
Yeah.
And it's because we have a specific story to tell.
Yeah.
And this is really the place to do it.
Where
for
did
us.
you guys start to
You know,
understand
the
this
fact
about?
that the building is like rusty and looks abandoned, and people are questioning, is this it? Is it not? Because we were like, do we put a sign outside? And we were like, no, let's not put it. Like, we want you to kind of discover it. It's that mystique that again, is the same thing.
It's a part of our brand, totally. Where did we find out how to do this? Branding
Just
stuff?
like,
I think it's just
I mean,
us. Like,
it's just you
it's
guys.
just,
That's just how you see the
you've-
world.
the most successful you can be is when you know who you are. And then it's like we've always known who we are. And the hardest part about us is like letting go of like, we're evolving and just kind of like letting go of that. And we don't always have to do exactly like.
But we've worked in kind of the high-end world for a long time, so we've learned from brands that have done that properly. And we mostly learned from brands that have done it horribly. And you can see what not to do. Like, I've worked for...
Meaning, so like when you're...
Well, you can't force it. Like if you're not your brand, like if you're walking down the street and you're not your brand, like if you caught us any day walking down the street, like you'd be like, yo, that's Material Lust. Like
You do kind of have to
wouldn't-
live it a little bit.
You do. You need to become your brand.
We are
But
extremists,
ultimately, that seems to add value to the
Yeah.
brand.
Yeah.
Being able to say, like,
Yeah.
okay.
But like if you're not the brand, then everybody else is going to be confused too. Like if you're not.
The thing you can pick up on immediately on somebody that's just kind of like in terms of branding that's maybe a little off, depending on who the person is that it seems not authentic.
Yeah, it's that smoke and mirrors.
Yeah,
like
you get the
I'm
smoke
just
and mirrors.
stylizing this.
Yeah.
And then it's the worst when like you've like we always say like don't meet your
heroes.
yeah, because it's like
No, you will be
they've
disappointed.
stylized and then you met them and you're like, wait, you're not like this at all.
Yeah. Which is a problem with, Instagram now. Everybody's trying to kind of create a sub-brand of what they really are. And yes, there can be some smoke and mirrors. You need to have some theater involved in all of that.
Yeah.
But you've got to keep it close enough to who you actually are as a creative, or else that you're not authentic anymore.
Yeah.
Which
I
people
think,
can smell.
And
you
what's
know?
we've also struggled with is in the beginning we used to put a lot out there and be super authentic, and then people would kind of like, pull off from us, and we would be like, wait, but that's not you, like, and then
Pull off, you mean like kind of rip off, like? What do you mean
yeah,
by
a little
pull
bit,
off?
and it just
We hate
even just
saying
like our
ripping off because things happen from a lot of different places.
Yeah, but it's like language was being used and just stuff like that was happening, and then you're kind of like, because our whole thing is about being authentic, and so that's been the hardest part for us, is just kind of like.
But then what we've learned from that is to not look at so much at what other people are doing.
Yeah.
And kind of just focus on what you've got.
But
going
and
on.
also just not oversharing.
Don't
too.
overshare.
We gotta kind of like pull back, and then.
Which is tough in the Instagram world because it's all about sharing.
Yeah, because you also want to tell your story, right? And like, but I can't put my sketches out there like immediately as I'm working on it and show you the process.
Well, I think there's a lot of conversations around this going on. There's either push as much content as possible. That's one approach, or pull it back. And there's evidence that both work. You know
Totally,
what I mean?
100%. I think
So-
for us specifically,
Yeah.
we've
well,
got to
I
strike a
think-
balance.
Well,
Yeah.
and you like the
Yeah.
mystique. The
Yeah.
aspect of mystique is part of the branding. So
100%.
to keep it pulled back, then how do you grow the brand?
So
With that in mind, right? With with people going more and more online, more and more, and you want to having a little bit more of this like pulled back approach.
we made another brand.
Yeah.
Right.
And we really started that whole we're blurring the line is gone.
Gone.
Yeah.
Like we have to define. It's like we always say, like, you've got to almost dumb it down, because people they can't have this long, lengthy explanation of what it is.
But through that
you just got to
process
be
of-
like,
yeah.
this is it.
Through that process of dumbing it down for whoever our audience is, we've kind of dumbed it down for ourselves, and it's become easier for us to make stuff.
It's
Really
almost
dumbing
like
it down,
A/B.
guys. I think it's more of it becomes
Editing.
clearer.
Sure.
Things become
Yeah,
It's a
clearer.
nicer way of saying it.
Yeah.
But it's organizing.
It's
We're
organizing.
things
I mean,
in a
we're
way
finding
we
that
can
at the studio
digest it.
too, man.
Yeah.
Like over the years, we're able to like refine it better.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
Yeah.
at first you're just fumbling through things.
But it's almost like, if you think about it and from a branding place, it's your elevator pitch. You've got 5 seconds to tell somebody exactly what you do. And I think
like
that's
3
kind of how we
sentences.
figued out it wasn't working, was because
It was
people would always say,
confusing and-
hi, we're Material Less. Like, people would introduce me like, oh, this is Lauren from Material Less. And then they'd be like, what do you do? And like, I'm a consultant, and I also have my studio in Soho. And then it just was like, whoa, this is too, like, I've got to separate it.
Yeah.
All right. Now that you've
helps.
talked about that, I'd love to talk a little bit about the consulting versus the art and the orphan work, which we just brought up. So, which I don't know if everyone knows it or not. So we can dive a
Orphan
little bit
Work,
into this.
Orphan Work is a new brand that we've created that's just design, and that's allowed Material Less to just be art.
Yeah. And basically, it's like elevator pitch is that it's lost designs from the Material Less archive.
So it's always designs that we've always wanted to make that didn't make sense for Material Less because it didn't
As a
fit the
brand.
brand.
Yeah.
So and they're just like too design focused or too.
It's still passion. You're still passionate about the design.
We're still
100%.
passionate about it.
There's two.
And
We've got two minds.
It's a niche that needs to be filled.
Yeah.
Like that.
We saw a hole in the market.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's talk about that, because you're categorizing things now in a different way. And what's the strategy for doing that? Because I've seen there's a couple people now that I'm following on Instagram also that are starting these subsequent brands to help, maybe move sales along, maybe
Definitely.
right.
Yeah.
So the
So-
design, by its there's a lot of different definitions, but one of its definitions is that it's should be consumer friendly. Design is kind of for everyone. It's this utopian vision, where trying to pigeonhole Material Less into this utopian vision, even for the brand, doesn't even make sense. It's more dystopian than anything.
Yeah.
So we needed to have something that could fulfill that design need of these utopian designs that fit into your house, that work well with other designs that are in your house that are not necessarily yours.
Yeah.
So we
Well,
created this.
And from our consulting, we're doing a ton of private label. And just one day it clicked. We were like,
Should we
well,
explain what private label
we
is?
should private label
and maybe
ourselves.
consulting too, because this is something that I feel like is hidden a lot of times.
So private label is if a company does a lighting collection, they need new designs all the time. Sometimes they'll have in-house designers, most companies do, and then sometimes they'll hire outside designers to private label designs for them. So basically, you give them designs, and your
How do you
name
find
doesn't
those
go
people?
on.
How do they find you?
We found them all through word of mouth.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we've been working in the industry
Once
for a
we
while, so
started,
we've luckily had some contacts, and
Yeah.
honestly, our best business relationships are always word of mouth
Yeah.
business relationships. So we do private label consulting work is got to be 90% of our business.
Yeah.
90% of your business right now is consulting.
And it has been since we've started.
Yeah.
When we started
it's like, if you think of it, it's the old world methods of the way painters, they want to do the crazy painting, but they've got to do the portrait of the rich old guy and his
To pay for the
family
rest of the
to pay his rent.
and be able to do the painting about all of his feelings.
Yeah. So we always knew in the beginning, that was one of our strategies, that we were always going to do consulting work and we were always going to have client work.
And it allows us...
Until Orphan Work and Material Lust were able to
Yeah.
sustain.
But the consulting allows us to be freer
Yeah.
with the work and not be so like,
Which with
all right.
with what work? What do you
With the
mean?
consulting work.
With the consulting work.
Well, no, the consulting allows Materialist to be free. And then
Oh, I see. Right,
Yeah.
where you're not feeling like you're fulfilling a client's
yes,
desires.
we're not like, all right, we need to make a chair and we need to make a desk. And then this.
How much of the consulting income do you end up using to pouring into your...
All of it.
All of it.
All
Yeah.
of it. Yeah.
All of it.
Yeah.
We invest every dollar we make
dollar.
back into this company.
Yeah. And it
That's our
all goes-
investment.
But I will say, when you're first starting out, if you don't have an investor and you're not coming from money, one thing that we did, which was huge for us, was relationships are the most important thing for us. And we had made a relationship with a metal worker. And to this day, we made a trade with him. And we said, will you produce our collection and we will do your branding? And so that's how we started our company.
Wow.
We didn't have any money to start our company. And so it's, again, a huge thing in the world is, in our industry is these relationships, because that metal worker needs his website done too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
that guy
he-
doesn't want to worry or even know how to approach that. Right?
Yeah.
Sure.
So again, that's another old world method in our modern way of we're doing a trade.
Yeah. I think the relationships are huge, the word of mouth is huge, and that's why we can focus stuff like our social media to do more, I hate this word, but more edgy stuff. In turn, what I've started to notice is that the edgier we kind of get and the more experimental we get with our social media stuff, that actually brings in more kind of corporate clients, because they want to, they have no authenticity whatsoever, corporate clients.
Sure.
They need some of that. So it actually ends up kind of being this big circle of
Do you guys love the consulting work? I know,
depends
it
on
must-
what day.
Right, just depends on what day. Yeah.
Sometimes I love it because you get to be outside of your own head.
Yeah.
And you're
if because our name isn't on it,
Yeah.
we like to call ourselves, we were even having a conversation with a potential client the other day, and we're like, we are the help. We are here to make it happen for you. Because we don't have any feelings.
You don't have
about
an
this.
interest in the design being great. You're like, listen.
Well,
No.
we want it to be a great design, but we're working within those guidelines of this is a company that does Art Deco lighting. Fine, great.
Yeah.
We know enough about all of those worlds in order to do a collection for them that one feels new, but still fulfills all their corporate needs.
Yeah, and we even do the manufacturing. If you want us to go as far as the manufacturing, we do that also and deliver it, and you're done.
Yeah.
All you have to do is.
So we've done it a lot in New York for these huge companies, and nobody knows.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah,
all word
exactly.
of mouth.
I mean, I
we
don't think
don't
that
advertise
nobody
it.
knows.
We don't
Most people
tell
know that,
anybody.
right?
But then that's why it kind of clicked last year. We were like, we wanted to kind of lean off the consulting a little bit, and we were like, well, let's just private label ourselves, and that's
where
Orphan
that's Orphan Work, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm like, the strategy's getting tight. This is good. And so you guys are, fifth year in.
But I gotta
and
say,
it's-
this is a natural kind of thing.
course.
Just
But
seeing
yeah.
opportunities.
It's
and
natural
Yeah.
because you
jumping
guys
on
are invested in all of the three things that you're doing. You're putting all, you know what I mean? You're in the conversation constantly about where the business needs to go, observing moves that you've made, taking steps back, analyzing, changing, evolving. Dude, that comes with just self-awareness, with time, with like a lot of,
time, mistakes, but less about actually making the mistakes, because that's like a common thing. Everybody's like, oh, you got to make the mistakes. It's
You do have to make
analyzing the mistakes and
Yeah.
actually learning from them
That's
is
right.
a totally
Yeah.
different thing.
Yeah.
And it's the step that is actually the important part.
Yeah.
So we've tried to do that as much as possible. We've
Yeah.
made the same mistake a couple times.
Yeah.
I can think of one in particular, but
touching on the fact that you guys talk about social media, let's talk about it. It's one of the biggest influencers now in terms of getting your work out there.
sure.
Yeah.
What's your approach currently to
Quality versus quantity. So
Yeah.
like we don't have a ton of followers, but the followers we do have are people that are our clients, people that interact with us, people that want to collaborate.
How do you tailor that? I mean, how are you?
We don't buy likes, we don't buy followers.
Yeah.
Do you believe in promotion on social media?
If
Like
you
in
have
terms of like if you have a product that you want to get out there more widely.
If you have a product that makes sense for
Yes.
social media promotion, yes.
Yeah.
If you've got a $50,000 piece of sculpture, does it make sense to kind of do a promotion on social media, or does that feel like it's not special anymore?
Yeah.
You know?
Because you don't.
Then how
know,
are you
like-
getting more and more audience members to your work? Or are you really trying to just tailor your audience where you said, listen, tailor.
Yeah.
Taylor.
How do you do that? How do you?
A lot of in-person stuff.
Okay.
We beg
Yeah.
people to come to our studio, where
Yeah.
most people don't. Most people are like, oh no, I have another studio video.
Yeah,
they'll
and the
scramble.
email is coming from me. It's
Yeah.
not coming.
It's not
from
coming
the
from an
studio
intern.
assistant.
It's not coming from an assistant. Even
Yeah.
though we have those people, we always do all
Yeah.
that outreach ourselves.
Yeah, because we.
This is
we
like an
were-
intimate email to another person saying,
Yes.
we'd love to have you by our
Yes.
studio.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Or we might send them like a gift or lunch
We're
or.
big on the
Is
gifts.
that editors or is that interior folks?
Interior designers are our number one clients.
Yeah.
Perfect, right?
By,
By far.
far.
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah.
Editors are going to be your best friends, you know?
Yep.
And they're always looking
They
for
s-
something, exclusive, new, unique. They want to get out of the office.
Yeah.
So if you can give them a reason to come see you, they're going to take it,
Yeah.
Even if you're a small studio.
Yeah.
Right.
They don't care. Even if you think it's dirty or you think
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
why
totally.
would somebody want to come see me?
Yeah.
They want to see new, cool, fresh stuff. They want to see it, the process of it being made. That shouldn't, deter like a young designer to reach out to an editor.
One thing we're doing right now on our social media, we've been kind of like kind of
Reorganizing.
ghosting it a little bit because it's going to be our 6-year anniversary and we're going to rebrand and this is the new space in
That's
Soho.
right. You're going also from Material Lust to ML.
Yeah.
Obviously, it'll still mean Material Lust.
Yeah.
So what we're trying to do, and the reason we're doing that, is because it allows us to be more free about what we're doing. Material Lust will always be a part of the brand and is the name going forward. But we like the idea of it just being ML for a second to try out, to experiment, because then we can start going into video art,
Sound.
sound
We wanna start doing
installations.
sound.
I see.
So it's not so.
But what,
Pigeonhole.
yeah.
Yes.
But what I was going to say about the social media is that we're not oversaturating it right now, and we're going back to the basics, right? So we've been doing these like index posts where we're like, this was phase 1, 2013. This is the piece we did. Is it still available? Where can you see it? And then phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, and then what's the new stuff?
You're saying so as you maybe gain some more traction on there, you're reintroducing some of your past works that people
Totally.
and sort of
As
saying like this is our brand.
as
from
a
the-
context
cool.
of like where we started,
Yeah.
where we're going, but also like social media is you're documenting, right? Again, going back to the telling your story and like you're documenting what you're doing. So, you know, I love it when I get a like and somebody's been at the bottom of my feed, you know, because I'm thinking about all that whole story that's happening.
Yeah, it's a timeline.
It's a timeline.
You know, you're organizing your life basically via photography on Instagram and videos in a timeline. And so for us, that's actually really natural because it feels like we've always had this sense of we want our stuff to feel historically important in some way. Like we've always said that like the ultimate thing is if somehow we could end up in a textbook.
Yeah.
Like just to be in a textbook of a timeline in New York at this time, these two people were doing this.
Yeah.
To me is the ultimate.
Our biggest compliment when we were first starting, somebody approached me at some party and they were like, I just want you to know, like, my students in Philadelphia, we just did a whole class about your coat rack. And I was like,
forgot about
this is like the greatest, this is better than any article in the New York Times.
Yeah.
And then the dean of persons told us that the senior thesis, like one of the girls was presenting and somebody said, oh, this is stylistically very materialist. And I was like, the fact that in the education system, we're being talked about as a style or a movement, like that is what is the most important thing for us.
We've always had these grand kind of
But you're
plans
thinking about the legacy of your work. And
always have been thinking about legacy before we even designed anything.
Is that kind of feels awkward to say because it almost feels like vanity, like a little bit of saying, oh, like the legacy.
I'm not doing this to be forgotten.
Yeah, it's about existence.
Like we create art because we want to be immortal.
Yeah.
You know? A lot of people have said
it's
that, but for us it's very true.
It's the same way people have children. It's like we're doing the same thing through our body of work.
Yes, except the kids will one day die, the work won't. So it's truly immortal.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Brancusi is now immortal.
That's true.
Yeah.
Not that we're comparing ourselves to Brancusi.
No, I understand.
But
it's this idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
And I mean, and nowadays we have a lot more opportunity to sort of archive the entire history of something. Right?
That's why it's very important to have your brand right.
Yeah.
Because if you're archiving something that you're not passionate about or is not authentic to who you are as a creative, what are you really doing? You're archiving the wrong thing.
Yeah.
How do you guys scale this from here, or are you interested in scaling? What is?
So at one point we've scaled and got to like 10 employees or something like that.
You did.
And realized that we hated it because our personal touch wasn't on. We like our personal touch to be on anything that leaves this studio, whether that be a piece of
even
sculpture.
consulting work.
Yes. If a PDF leaves here, my touch has to be on it.
Okay.
Because we were noticing mistakes being made, and that's just, when you're running a small bespoke business like we are, what we actually offer you is the attention to detail.
Yeah.
So
we've never wanted to be like this empire of like tons of employees because like we don't want to spend the time managing them, and then we don't want to spend the time managing the manager that manages them, and like we would just rather keep it small and be work to the bone.
Yeah.
And work to the bone.
Well, running a business is its own art form. If you can run a successful, like somebody that can run a successful auto body shop and grow to 2 auto body shops, that guy is a fucking painter to me. That's Picasso.
I agree.
Yeah.
Because to find a market share, find clients, consistently deliver pleasurable experiences to these clients, and then grow your business that way,
That takes a lot of creativity.
It takes a lot of creativity,
hard work, dude.
ton of time.
Yeah.
And to me, those people, those are always people I look up to.
Yeah.
For us,
Yeah, it almost doesn't matter the industry, dude. If
Does
you look
not
across the
matter.
board and you say, you're doing this really well,
Yes.
and you've like refined it.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
you're designing the way you're running your business.
Yes.
And it's the same way with designer art. You're looking at references of how other people have run their businesses, and then you figure out a way to make your mark. And that's how your business kind of grows.
No, we ran into this, like there wasn't a model for me to follow, which made it really hard.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times you just felt like we were floating in air, kind of like, okay, well, what are the moves? You know what I mean? Because there's not.
Does not.
Yeah, and you just have to find your own.
You've got to find your own. You can't, and you also can't compare yourself
I know.
You
that's
don't
a
know
big- yep.
where
Yeah.
this person has come from. Like, you don't know how they've gotten there. You've got to just focus on yourself
Yeah.
and what's best for
That's the
your
other thing.
studio.
If you follow somebody else's model, you might end up doing something you hate.
and you might spend
And then
your
you've got a bunch of
whole-
employees that are
and you might spend
dependent on
your
their paychecks.
whole, like, existence trying to obtain something that really isn't that important.
That important or even attainable, because again, you don't know how many steps ahead they started before you.
Yeah.
And by that you mean like maybe they have family invested.
Well,
in
one
it.
thing about the art and design world, which is kind of unfortunate, but is just a reality and it's been this way forever,
I know what you're gonna say.
is that a lot of the people involved come from money.
Yes.
So you'll end up, with a very large percentage of the design community come from wealth and have rich parents or have rich grandparents or whatever. And that can suck for the rest of us who didn't come from that background and don't have kind of benefactors. But it also goes back to that authenticity thing.
Dude, I've thought about this so much because,
people
but I
that
actually
don't have
think that
money
not having the money,
Yeah.
right, coming into the field,
Yeah.
pushes you so much hard.
Yes.
You guys have to grind all the time.
And
Yeah.
you got to be really creative.
That's
Yeah.
right. Because you don't have the opportunity. You don't have an investor. You don't have a little
There's
like,
no
oh, I'll
backup.
give you 10K to make your first collection or 20K or whatever it is.
No,
You don't have those opportunities. So actually, I think it ends up working in your benefit.
In
Yeah,
the long
I think it
term,
makes better
In the
work.
long term,
Definitely.
it's totally much better.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But
Because you get if you're mid 20s or mid to late 20s, you get a little thrust from your parents or whoever, you may not be able to sustain that in your mid 30s.
no way.
Yeah, exactly. So
Because you didn't learn how to run a business.
exactly.
Even if you're just doing fine art is a business. The fine artists that we know that are older, fantastic painters, they're the ones that really kind of organize their business properly and always were just painting portraits or whatever else.
You find a way. I mean, even the most successful artists that we're friends with have ebbs and flows. Like,
Totally.
they'll be super high, but I think that's the thing that we've kind of let go of is like, you'll have a really great fucking month, and then the next month is dead.
Wow.
But that is totally from being a small business. So that auto body shop is going to have the same thing.
But that strife of that month kind of wakes you up, and you're
And
like,
informs the work.
okay, I can't get comfortable. Like, I gotta keep going here.
Yeah, you're never comfortable.
Not only that, it also makes you start realizing how you spend your money, how you start to invest. You start to say, well, do I pull back in this? Like, do we really need that? You start to really analyze your business and say,
Yeah.
right, is PR a cost we want to have right now? You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Those kind of
Yeah.
things. You say you
Yeah.
go from a retainer model to
That
Yeah.
PR thing, the first thing I always say to somebody when somebody asks me about PR, since they know we've done it, is be prepared to spend an amount of money that might be uncomfortable.
we can say it here. It's like around 6,000 to 10,000, depending on who
Depending
you're
on who
working
you're
with.
talking to.
5 to 6. There's less expensive a month.
A
That's
month.
right.
And
So it's
that's
a
huge. A lot of people's rents aren't that,
Exactly.
Yeah.
I feel like this has been, I really love the trajectory of how you guys have approached it the last few years. I mean, me just watching, from your annex space to getting rid of that to getting into this new space. I feel like this space may have helped evolve your,
Yeah.
Oh, totally.
yeah.
Before we had two separate spaces. We lived in a space and then we went to work in a space. And for us, that doesn't make sense. We're too much a part of this every day
Yeah.
that we need to sleep, eat, go to the bathroom in the space where we're making work.
Sure.
It's got to be all the same space.
No, and it probably helped condense your finances where you say, okay, like
It did
Yeah.
actually.
Yes.
Yeah.
It did a lot. And for us, it's just another kind of survival tactic.
Yeah.
One that actually benefits the work, thank God.
And the brand, this space helps everything come together for
Yeah.
you guys.
Yeah.
think so.
Because people will come to a studio visit and they want to hang out in the back.
Totally, because
Yeah.
you have this. Also, it has this like old Soho vibe, so
Yeah.
it brings this whole experience to
Yeah.
it, which
Yeah.
I think is crucial. Like, look, we have the gallery space in the studio. It's been crucial to have a space
Yeah.
that people are excited to come see.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Definitely.
so then Material Lust 2019, 2020. What does it look like? Where are you guys?
So we're kind of trying to be the first independent artist to show at an art fair. So we're
What?
Yeah.
Are you trying to?
Well, the problem,
Okay.
so we're showing Material Lust in art context only.
What's your approach with this? How are you doing this?
So we're just putting together proposals that are really kind of trying to break the rules.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the whole world is, people are trying to kind of shake it up right now.
Yeah.
And that's what we're trying to do.
You go to art fairs now, you see the same thing over and over
And
again.
you're not necessarily seeing the artists. And a collector is coming to buy the work. And like we just went and saw the Kusama documentary, and she was like, she didn't get invited to the biennial. So she installed outside the biennial her work and just laid in her fucking work. And I was like,
This is brilliant.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, she was doing that in the fucking 70s.
I think that was actually the 60s, which is crazy.
But you guys have an institution to try to break down to do that. Like the art fair system is supported by galleries, right?
Totally.
And then the museums and the curators and everyone
Yeah.
support that structure.
And
It's
there's
up
You
battle.
want to eliminate the middleman,
Yeah.
put your work out there, and I know that, and the reason you're doing it through an art fair is because you know you need that exposure.
Yes.
Even though you don't want to pay
You
those
need the
fees.
exposure.
So
But
right.
and why not? Why not create one little area for us? Why not?
Not just us. There could be
There's
multiple
three.
people.
Maybe there's three of us. Like
Guys,
there's
I'm
no
with you.
reason.
We want to break that boundary in the art world as well,
Yes.
because the design world we've been able to penetrate, but the art world is a tricky one.
Yeah. I think.
And then who's working the booth? We are.
You
We're
are.
standing
That's right.
there.
You're the
You're
brand.
meeting us. It's the same thing as you're coming to the studio and doing a studio visit.
Awesome.
Here we are.
Yeah.
in our work.
We've always had this kind of love-hate relationship with galleries in general. I think we're always trying to eliminate galleries as much as possible.
Right.
Because
But we do see them. They're important.
Sure,
I think they can be
but not for
important in
our work.
partnerships,
In
with you
partnerships,
guys,
yes.
but not
galleries
as a,
aren't in. See, a lot of so a gallery that's wants to be in a partnership is a dream come true.
Yeah.
A gallery that wants to take 50% of your work and not expect you to do your own PR, expects you to do all your own production, doesn't pay for any materials, helps out in no way, but still wants 50%. That's not a
And
partnership.
well, and it's just a vanity project for them. And you're at the end, the artist just makes it seem like we're just making them look good. And
Totally.
And you're like, I
100%.
thought this was about me
Yes. So
and my work.
galleries can be great, the ones that are interested in partnerships.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there's less of those. We
But
have a
when-
gallery in LA,
Yeah. That we.
JF Chen, who's
Joel
interested
Chen.
in a partnership with us.
Yeah.
And we show work there because
Joel
we have
and
a
Bianca
partnership.
also understand from a historical place that, Joel is collecting work to, again, tell a story, a moment in time,
Yeah.
have a conversation. Like,
He's doing it for the right reasons.
he's been around. He knows everybody. He's been to everybody's studio. And
we know,
Yeah.
I know him
Yeah.
really well. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's a powerhouse.
and
over there.
he knows, he always thinks of us. And like, he's always trying to
Promote us
promote us or make our goals happen. Like the fact that he put one of our pieces in Christie's, like that was a huge lifetime goal that I never thought I would see until I was like 80 years old.
Yeah.
And he made it happen. And that is why they're important. Another gallery got one of our pieces for a museum acquisition. And there's no way that we could have done that on our own. Maybe, but it's important.
So galleries are great, the ones that want to be in a partnership. Unfortunately,
ones
you've
that
got to
are-
find
I mean,
that
you got to
place
understand also though,
Yeah.
that system has been,
Yes.
on the decline.
on the decline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Only because the middlemen have been pushed out quite a bit. The top tier galleries have been able to sweep up those artists.
But what the top tier galleries do for artists, even when they don't help them out as a partnership, they sell your fucking work.
Yeah.
What you have now is a lot of galleries that are doing this. I'm not sure why. We've always called them vanity projects. They want as many people to show up to the opening as possible. They could care less about actually selling the work. And the artists, what do they do then? They've spent 2 years of their lives making a collection for you,
Yeah.
a new show, and you can't sell one piece. That's really kind of a breach of a moral contract.
Yeah.
If you can't sell one of my pieces, then it's a real problem.
I not only do I 100% agree, I mean, I think this has been plaguing the whole art market for a long time, and that's why you're seeing the rise of independent people wanting to, you're like, look, my work is good enough to be in an art fair of that caliber. That's not even the question. So trying to get there and being like, look, this is my work. Look at it for the quality and the value of it, not because of which gallery is representing me.
Totally. I don't need a dinosaur to tell me that my work is good.
Right.
You know, some gallery dinosaur.
Yeah.
I don't need that. I already know that it's good.
I think that we can say this, we can have this conversation today because of what's happening with the internet, the connectivity, the global aspect of being able to show. Yeah. This is not a conversation we would have had 10 years ago because you don't have the access that you didn't have the access back then. So I love that this is happening. Obviously, I mean, this is what I really am passionate about independent studios having that. And man, I hope you guys can do it. I hope you guys can get in. And if you're getting, we'll be the fucking next ones there, dude.
I mean, I feel like that's why we originally connected.
We'll have booths next to each other.
Yeah, we connected with you from the beginning because we were like, he gets it. He's doing the same thing.
The independent thing is huge, and it's something that is definitely the future.
And why would you spend your whole time making your works just so this gallery can show my work? Or like, it goes back to PR too. Like, why would you spend your whole year hoping you get this one article? It's like,
but then it
you
becomes
you gotta keep making.
If you don't have the gallery support, then it becomes more important that your branding is on point, that your social media is on point, that your PR is on point, because you're now doing all of that.
Yeah.
So, and if you can do it and succeed and be smart about it, there's no reason you can't be a living, working artist. Yeah. You know?
Yeah.
I think
it's crucial though that people understand that it takes an immense amount of work. Like, you guys don't stop working.
No.
In fact, sometimes we don't get to hang out because I'm like, they're always working. But I appreciate that about you guys because it's like, that's all it takes. It takes fucking hard work and thinking about your work and about your brand, all that stuff.
Yeah, it's a commitment.
Yeah.
You made a commitment to kind of do this, and now we're going to do it, no matter what, kicking and screaming.
You guys rock. I seriously, like, I admire what you guys have done, what you do. I love your work. I think you guys are incredible, and you're genuine, you're real, you're authentic, you understand life, you're self-aware. You guys have got a lot of good shit going on, and so, thank you so much for the interview.
Thank you. That was awesome.
Awesome.